Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. This week we're going to be telling Cody's story of how he got diagnosed with brain cancer, and we're doing that for a couple reasons. One is because this week has been exactly 3 years since he had the brain tumor and the surgery, so it's been 3 years, which is crazy to think about, and also because of some of the things we posted in the past, just like pregnancy being a miracle, like people asking about getting pregnant naturally and going on a free trip to Hawaii. That all has to do with his story. So this will give just like a lot of context about our life. And we also hope that it could be encouraging to someone if there is someone who has had cancer, know someone who's had cancer is going through that. We hope that we could hopefully be encouraging and helpful to you. So we will just start at the beginning when we first got married. So we got married in October 2021 in Knoxville, and we decided to move to Charleston, South Carolina. We didn't actually know exactly why we were moving to Charleston, but we just felt like that was the right thing to do, and we'll circle back to that later. But we moved to Charleston, and we had been married for about a month, and then Cody started just having a couple of like small symptoms happen. Like he would get these little like cramps in his leg, which he was already having, but he continued to have those. And then
They weren't really cramps, they were like contractions. They were like
yeah,
just like pulsations.
Pulsings in his leg. It was kind of hard to explain. Then he started having some vision trouble, like blurry vision. And then one day we were driving around Charleston, and Cody was driving, and he completely lost vision in his eye. Like his vision completely went out for like a full 30 seconds. And we were okay, like nothing happened, but it was really scary. So we decided to book him an appointment at the eye doctor.
As one does.
Yes, as you would do when you had eye troubles. So he went to the eye doctor, and they like did an eye exam and told us that he had swollen optic nerves, which usually means like you have some type of pressure behind your eyes, but that was kind of the most that they could tell us. So so they suggested that he get an MRI that would see like if there's anything going on behind the eyes, but that was pretty much the only symptom that he was having.
That's
and
not
then
like an insult.
what?
Like something going on, if anyone's going
Oh,
up
but well, there was one other thing that happened right in the meantime before the MRI.
Oh yeah, we had a visual disturbance. I guess I had another visual disturbance. I like I had this like I saw something in like my eye. It was like another blurry vision moment, but it was like a sickle shape. And it was like it just wouldn't go away. I rinsed my eyes and it never budged. It was never something that it just seemed it was like a visual phenomenon. It was like something was actually wrong with my eye itself. And that was there for like 30 minutes. I think I remember calling Amanda. I think she was in a class or something. And so we went to the emergency room, and so to get my eyes checked out, see what's going on. And they reported nothing. They did this eye vision, this like weird test. They dyed my eyes, and they tried to do something, and we didn't find anything. They didn't find anything, so they sent us home. About a little.
Yeah, they told him he was completely fine. So at this point, his MRI was like the next week, so we just decided to wait till then. So this would have been now like a few weeks after we got married, 6 or 7 weeks. And so he had the MRI on December 15th, and he went in for it. We were actually not supposed to get the results until after Christmas. We were gonna come back, so
It's gonna be like January 7th or something like that.
yeah, so after he did the MRI, we were walking out of the waiting room, and the nurse came out and she said, actually the doctor is going to talk to you now. And looking back, that should have been alarming to us, but we were just so oblivious. We're like, oh, that's awesome.
So we don't have to wait until January. So we just get to find out now.
Yeah, we'll get it over with. So we just went back into the waiting room, completely unsuspecting, and is it neurologist?
Yeah,
the
neurologist.
Radiologist, came in like with a disc and a very grim face, and she just said, we just need to tell you guys that they found some type of mass in your brain about the size of a softball, and you should go to the emergency room right now. You should go to the Medical University of South Carolina. So she gave us a moment, like she stepped out and gave us a moment, and then told us to go to the ER. So we were when she gave us a moment, we were just completely shocked. We were like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, he wasn't having any headaches, wasn't having really anything besides just the eye thing. So, yeah, we were just completely shocked. So,
yeah,
we took the disc and went to the ER, and even like we were still in shock. Like when we walked into the ER, they're like, "Why are you here today?" And Cody's like, "They just found a softball-sized tumor in my brain." And they're like, "Well, you seem awfully, like, you seem kind of okay for receiving that kind of news." And we're like, "Well, we just found out like 20 minutes ago." We're in complete shock. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so
Maybe we called our parents beforehand, but yeah.
So the funny thing about going to MUSC is that since we had just moved to Charleston, Cody was getting a job. I was in school in Charleston, and Cody was actually interviewing at the Medical University of South Carolina to work in one of their labs. And he was going to have an interview the very next day, like his final interview.
Yeah, the third interview. It's so annoying.
Yep, and he ended up being there for a very different reason. But we knew that it was a good hospital. And
I didn't get the job, so.
yeah. So they did their own scan, confirmed everything, and scheduled him for emergency surgery the very next morning. So we called our families and told them, and some of them drove up to be with us. And the surgery was the next morning on December 16th, which was exactly 2 months after we got married. We got married on October 16th. So that was kind of another God thing. Like, one was moving to Charleston, two was we had like a very short engagement and dating, and it wasn't that we were rushing it, but we just really like felt that we should get married in October, and so we did.
And that we were ready. So.
Yeah, and that we were ready. Yeah. So
big factor there.
yeah, so we did, and if we hadn't gotten married in October, if we had waited till the summer like we were thinking about it, then yeah, who knows what our life would have looked like. But anyways, he had the surgery the next morning, and they were able to remove 99% of the tumor. They did confirm that it was a tumor, and
they can only say like 99% because everything else would be like microscopic. What they got, so like the physical aspects of what you could see during a surgery, they were able to remove all of it, which is great.
Yeah, and that was really good because it was lodged, like it was taking up the complete left side of his brain. It was like really in like the middle of his brain.
Yeah,
so
like intertwined with all of the little neurons. So.
They said like they may not be able to take it all out. It could cause him to be paralyzed. It could make him lose his speech. It could make him lose his vision. Like, it was controlling a lot of things. So we didn't know what it was going to be like when he woke up from the surgery. But he actually did not wake up for 3 days, which was pretty scary. They gave him too much anesthesia. He had never had anesthesia before, so they just gave him the standard dose, and it turned out to be way too much for him. So that was like the longest 3 days ever. And
super quick for me. It was like 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, like, if you're on anesthesia, which this is my first experience, like she said, you like when you go to sleep, when they put you out, you'll wake up. The only thing I remember was like, it wasn't like you're sleeping overnight. All you remember is like, it's like a blink. You blink, and I was on the gurney being wheeled off to the next room, and then I blink again, and I'm in a bed, and it's 3 days past. So
yeah. So surgery was on Friday. He woke up on Sunday morning, and he woke up while his dad was in the middle of trying to give him yogurt. And so the very first thing that he said was, "I hate yogurt." And then I went up to him, and because like I didn't know if he was gonna recognize me or anything, and he was like, "Hello, my love," or something like that. And then like I burst out crying, and the nurses bursted out crying. But yes, so he woke up, and he didn't have any major complications from the surgery. He did lose some of his speech. He lost some like feeling in his body. We weren't sure if it was going to be permanent or temporary, but since then he's gotten most of his words back and everything like that. Had to do speech therapy and physical therapy.
Yeah, I lost almost all my words. It was just like I didn't remember dog, cat, anything. The only strange part was like the initial during the surgery, I could speak, like you said, like I said, hello, my love, or I hate yogurt and stuff like that. And then like later on, it like got worse across those days, where it's like I just lost, I couldn't put together sentences, and I still stumble on things nowadays. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So that was kind of some of the aftermath of the surgery, but it really was a blessing that we were at in South Carolina, because it turns out that the surgeon that Cody had was like one of the top surgeons in the country for that brain surgery. He's done that particular type of tumor removal several times. And so
specializes in astrocytomas, really thought it was a particular astrocytoma, stuff like that. So
yeah, so if we had been in Tennessee, like in Knoxville, the surgery may not have gone that way, or we don't even know. So we actually think, looking back, that's why we were supposed to move to Charleston, was so that Cody could be in that hospital and have that emergency surgery. So at this point, they told us they removed the tumor, but we didn't know what type of tumor it was, like if it was benign, if it was cancerous, if it was something else. So they sent it off to pathology. And in the meantime, Cody went to rehab, had physical therapy, started all of that, and just recovered from surgery. And
best Christmas ever.
Yes, he actually went home from rehab on Christmas. But let's see. So the surgery was on December 16th, and we had to wait. It was at least 2 or 3 weeks from the pathology results, which just felt like forever. Like, we kept calling and checking on it, and we didn't hear anything for a long time. But eventually, in like mid-January, they called us and said, they like asked if we wanted to hear the results over the phone, or if we wanted to come in to see the doctor. So we told them that we just wanted to know. So they said that he had something called an IDH1 high-grade astrocytoma, which in other words is a very rare and aggressive form of brain cancer. They said that there's no cure, that if he did chemo and radiation, that would it's not considered a cure, but that could like prolong things. But in most cases it comes back, and usually can't do anything like when it comes back. So it was a very grim phone call. Was there anything else about like the specific?
I mean, yeah, it's like if I didn't take chemotherapy, radiation, the traditional method, it would have been like less than a year is what I was told. I think up to a year is what the prognosis was. And if it was not that, then it's going to be 5 to 10 years, I think is what they said. So
yeah,
was their best guess, even though it was like discovered in 2009. So
yeah, this tumor, the reason it's not considered a cure is because it was just discovered in like 2009 or 2011. So
yeah,
they have not found a cure for it. So they hung up, and when they told us about the tumor, like that time we were just in shock, but this time was like we actually like hit us, and obviously it's very upsetting news to get. So we just took several moments like crying, and we prayed, and then we called our families, which was horrible. But yeah, just trying to accept that, I guess, or figure out what to do. But really, like, that was just a horrible day. So
yeah, you're just trying to reconcile, how you view life when everything seems to have been shortened by 70 years. So
yeah,
that was my first thought.
Yeah. So after that, it was figuring out treatment. So we were going to stay in Charleston initially, but because of insurance, he was only covered in Tennessee. So we were just going to move back to Knoxville to be close to family and to get him the treatment there. But while we were looking into that, someone asked us if we had considered St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And we thought that was only like a hospital for little kids. That's what you think of when you think of St. Jude. But we actually found out that they accept patients through the age of 21. And once you're accepted as a patient, you are a patient for life. So as long as you're in, then they take care of you from then on. So we applied to St. Jude, and this was...
So I was 21 at the time. That's an important date. Yeah.
Yes,
So.
yes, that's what I was saying. It was actually kind of miraculous how this happened. So Cody was 21, and his birthday is February 1st, and this was the end of January.
It was like January 27th. Something
Yeah,
like that when we
so
applied.
he was just a few days away from turning 22, and you go through an application process, an approval process, referral process, like to get into St. Jude. So we really didn't know if he was going to be able to, but we applied and then called them and explained the situation, and they rushed his application and accepted him right before he turned 22. So in case you don't know this about St. Jude, they are a nonprofit and they do not charge their patients for care. Everything is completely covered. They don't bill you for anything. And not only that, but they are a research hospital, so everything is the top of the line. Like, they do have the best doctors and the newest research, and so it is just like an overall blessing for anyone who can be there.
A well-treated guinea pig. Well-treated guinea pig, yeah.
Yeah. So after only living in Charleston for about 3 months, we packed up our apartment and we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, which is where St. Jude is located, which was also about 6 hours from home for us. So we lived there for about 5 or 6 months. They gave us free housing and everything, covered our meals, covered all of Cody's care. So he had 30 rounds of radiation first. I think it was proton therapy, and they say that's like the most important thing to stop the tumor from coming back, if you can, is the radiation. And then he took a little break and then started chemotherapy, and it wasn't the traditional like you get the IV chemo. He did an oral chemo. I think it was called temozolomide, and that was for 12 rounds, so he was going to be on that for a year. So he did the first couple of rounds at St. Jude, and then they sent him home since it was only once a month that he had to take that. They just mailed the pills. So after we lived there for a few months, we came back to Knoxville, and he continued the chemo, and having to take it orally, I think, was really rough for you.
Yeah, I would have loved to have an IV. Yeah.
He had to swallow the pills with orange juice.
Well, it's like, we didn't swallow the pill.
Okay.
So I couldn't swallow a pill. Since I couldn't swallow a pill, we have to like open up the capsules, put it in a different kind of solvent, and that solvent ended up being orange juice. And orange juice is something that I, for about 2 years, I probably couldn't look at.
You can even say that.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
couldn't look at orange juice for the longest. Now I can at least look at it, but I cannot smell it, taste it, because it's like, temozolomide ended up being probably the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life.
Yeah.
But hands down.
So he had to swallow the pills for a few days every month. Well, not swallow the pills, the capsules, and that was so rough. I felt so bad for him. Like, he would just take it and then throw up all night, just feel horrible. It's literally poison in your body, so you could just tell, you know, he lost weight, and then from the radiation he like lost a bunch of hair on the side of his head. So that was just, yeah, a really, really rough few months. But after, I think he was supposed to be on the chemo for 12 rounds. And then after, I think 8-ish rounds, he basically, would you say, couldn't tolerate it anymore?
Yeah, it's like I thought I was starting to have liver problems and little pains in different places, and at that point I didn't feel safe taking it anymore, and like at one point I just couldn't even convince myself to take the solvent. I couldn't even drink the orange juice anymore.
Like, his body wouldn't let him swallow it anymore.
Yeah.
Because like we said before, it's poison, and it's a very unnatural thing to put that in your body. Because it kills the bad stuff, but it kills a lot of the good stuff as well.
Right. So for what we were told too is like the traditional number of rounds for an oral one is like 6 months of temozolomide. So anything after 6 months is supposed to be like, but St. Jude recommends 12 months. So it would have been the traditional 12 months for them. But so anything after 6 months though would have been kind of beneficial for them. But
yeah. So during that time that we decided that he was probably done with the chemo, we were exposed to an alternative treatment to cancer,
Yep.
which was the natural treatment. So in the span of a week, we had 3 separate people all recommend the same book called Chris Beat Cancer. First, it was one of Cody's friends just texted us and told us about it. Then someone from our work was like, have you ever heard of this book? And we're like, oh, that's the second time in a week. That's pretty cool. And then the very next day, someone else, completely unrelated, said, I just feel like I really need to tell you guys about this book called Chris Beat Cancer. So by that time,
the program just got offered for free, like at the time that we were like listening to it. So there's like a 10-day free seminar thing for the program.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, God wants us to do this. So we took the course and read the book, and it's basically, how we would explain it is like, how would you explain it?
It's like a lifestyle kind of change. It's like it's diet, exercise. So it's food, exercise,
stress reduction,
sleep patterns, stuff like that. So it's like everything regarding your life. So it's like
basic premise is anything that has been associated to possibly cause cancer, you remove that from your life, and you basically overdose on good things that fight cancer. So
carrots.
He had these giant salads, we'll show a picture, and he drank like 60 ounces of these juices every day, and
with each ingredient being very, very specific. So.
Yeah, everything is specifically, like, if you read the book, it tells you which, what cancer cells this kills or what this fights. And we just to make a disclaimer, like, we are not saying that this is what like ultimately healed Cody's cancer. He did this vigorously for about 90 days, but there are several people who have done that program as their only treatment, and their cancer is gone. So we would suggest anyone to look into that. The book is called Chris Beat Cancer, and the founder is Wark, and he has a program called the Square One program. So I'll put that in the notes. But those are the details on what he did. So he did that for about 90 days, and at
least for the full diet.
Yeah, for the full thing, for about 90 days. And it's, since chemo is the poison in your body, this, we can feel the effects, kind of reversing that.
The food was the medicine instead. So it's like,
yeah,
so that would be the main thing.
Yeah, so he, got his color back. Whenever he drank the juices, like you said, you could literally feel it in your brain.
Yeah, initially it's like whenever I would take the juices were super potent. Not the best tasting stuff. But it's definitely worth the effect. It's whenever I would take it, is I would feel the effect rush through to the spot of, or the site of my tumor. I haven't felt that in a long time. As far as whenever I take it, I don't seem to have an effect at all anymore. So it seems like that thing is kind of run its course. So it's nice.
So even when we were in public, people are like, your color is better, you look healthier. So we're not saying that this probably healed his cancer, but it was definitely the right thing that he needed to do after going through all of that, the toxic treatment of cancer, chemo and radiation. So a lot of people also use this for prevention. So he still does it to a degree. He still drinks the juices and tries to avoid the obvious cancer causers like processed meat and things like that. But so that's what we did for pretty much since then on. So that was in 2022, 2023. So it's been a year or two later, and kind of how everything looks now, there's not a dramatic end to the story, and then his cancer completely disappeared, and it's gone, and it's never gonna come back again. But
because there's no remittance with a brain cancer, with
remission.
There's no remission.
With the
brain tumor.
So the brain cancer that he has, you're never considered in remission. You just say there's no sign of disease. So he's gone back for several scans. We go back to St. Jude every few months for a scan, and all of them have been completely clear. Everything has looked perfect. There's no sign of anything. So that is a praise, and we can say that we are also not worried that about it coming back. We trust God with his life, and we mentioned just like a couple of ways that we saw God through this, but there were so many.
I don't know. We were kind of like in despair when we first heard the news in general. So it's like
Yeah.
the thing that gave us peace, at least moving forward, was it's you were kind of getting to that, I guess, is we aren't we fully believe that we are not promised tomorrow. We're not promised the rest of today. We're not. You never know if you're going to be in a car accident and die, and or just stuff like that. It's like you really don't know the length of your life. I truly think God is the giver and taker of life, in that regard. I think there was other things where it's like I think some people kind of say that, you know, or think that God is the one who gives diseases to other individuals and or takes them away or whatever it is. And so I just think like at least in that aspect, I don't think God gives diseases. I think it's the fact of like ever since like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, whether or not y'all believe that, is like I think that's when disease originated. I think when man fell in that aspect, that's when death and disease entered the world, and ever since then we've had death and disease in the world, and it's kind of been cycling since then. So that disease is just a natural thing in the world, an unnatural thing ever since the fall, but we have that in our world. So ever since we have that thing, anyone can get it. So I think cancer is definitely a disease that I think is an unnatural thing that happened from the fall, and it's not that God gave this to me. It ends up happening through whether it be genetic, environmental, all the things that science says. So yeah, I don't think it's something that God has cursed me with.
Well, yeah, because we got a comment that said, like, you are praying to the same God that gave you cancer in the first place. So, like you said, God does not give people cancer. That is part of the world that we live in ever since the fall. And God is going to restore everything one day. One day, when he comes back, there's going to be no more death. There's going to be no more disease. There's going to be no more cancer, because that is not part of the world that he originally created. And he does have the power to heal people. He absolutely can choose to intervene when he wants in this world. We do believe that he has with Cody. Ultimately, like, one day he is going to make everything right. So whether you, like Cody said, die in a car crash tomorrow or die from cancer in 5 or 10 years,
or if there's just, you know, or nothing progresses, and because again, this is, I don't know, so
yeah,
like, or there's nothing and I live until 90 and 100 and 110 and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like we just don't know.
So you should always live your day like it is your last, that you are ready to die. So if you do have a cancer diagnosis and a doctor has given you a certain amount of years, number one, just know that God is actually the one who gives and takes away life. He is the healer, and you should just always live your day like it's your last. Just make every single day count. So the last thing is the pregnancy thing. So so some comments made about like us getting pregnant naturally. So usually when you go through chemo, there's a very good chance that it could cause infertility, and they told us, like, before he did any treatment, that could, like, if we wanted kids, you know, just know that was a very good possibility that he wouldn't be able to. So we did go to a fertility clinic and I would say save some samples.
No comment.
Yeah, for if we ever needed to use them down the road. And looking back, we actually would have never done that. Like, even, you know, from the way you have to get the samples to just all that, like, it just felt very wrong to us. But we did want to have kids, so that was just the option that they gave us, so we did it. But actually, after a couple years, this was like a few months ago, we just really felt led that, like, if we were supposed to have kids naturally, then we would, and if not, then we'll adopt or, you know, do something else. So we actually called to have those samples destroyed. Like, we decided just not to use them. So they said if we were gonna ever have kids, like, maybe give it a couple of years for Cody's body to recover after the chemo.
Well, at least it's not safe for I forget, it was like 6 to 12 months or whatever it was.
Yeah.
While the chemo was still technically could be still in my body, like have trace amounts, so it wouldn't be safe it wouldn't be safe.
Yeah. So like before we got married, we kind of thought that we would have kids very soon after getting married, like as soon as I graduated college. So it was, I guess, longer than we thought. But
it was just always a question mark for whether or not it could have happened naturally. It was a question mark for whether or not it would have been possible, because like you're not guaranteed for like chemotherapy would have wrecked my system. I can't guarantee that my particular my part of the process would have been effective. Like they could have been infertile. That's the main thing. I could have had infertile seeds, and that's the main. We would never know that unless we went to a fertility clinic afterwards for the other reason. So it was just a blessing to have it naturally instead. So.
Yeah. So we did natural family planning for a couple years, like to intentionally prevent me getting pregnant, because they said it wouldn't be safe. But then for the few months leading up to that, we just said, like, it's probably been enough time, you know, whenever, if it's gonna happen, then it's gonna happen. So it happened. We are so grateful. Like, we do consider the baby to be a miracle and a gift, and when we share the name, we'll say more about that too.
And it was a honeymoon baby too. It's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, it was really just like the perfect time. Like, Cody had been recovered, like we got to go on that trip to celebrate him being over the cancer, and I got to heal like some of my health stuff too, so it was really just like the perfect time. And yeah, we praise God for that. Is pretty much the whole story. Oh wait, oh yeah, the last thing was we were talking about like what it looks like now, like the after effects. So the life is pretty much back to normal. He does take this pretty strong anti-seizure drug. Oh, which we forgot to say in the beginning of the video, but when we mentioned like some of his first symptoms were like the leg pulsings, we found out that those were actually seizures that he'd been having like for years, and we didn't even know that they were seizures. So he's on this really strong drug for anti-seizures called Keppra, and we really hate the drug. It messes with your mood. It's just like very strong. Like there's all these nicknames, but like it makes people have like committed suicide from it and everything. So we hope that he can be off that one day. And the only thing that really affects us is that he can't drive. So he's gotten all of his feeling back in movement, except in his right leg. It gets kind of numb, especially when he drives. Yeah, so I made a joke like in a video about him being a passenger princess, and it's not because he doesn't want to drive. He'd very much love to drive. I would very much love for him to drive. And we might be getting, you know, looking into like hand devices or something so that he'll be able to drive soon. Especially now that we're about to have a baby, it'll be less convenient. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that affects us now. And I think that's the whole story. If there's anything that we didn't answer in the video that you guys still want to know, then please ask. He's an open book. We want to share the story. And sorry that we say this in every video, but if you liked this story, we'd appreciate if you liked the video and subscribe so that we can keep growing our channel. And if you want to see any particular videos or more videos like this, then please comment and let us know. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!